Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about an approval system that I made using Power Apps and using SharePoint as a data source. And it's also featuring an app functionality called Open an App that Adobe has that has been integrated into Power Apps and to SharePoint. So let's get started. So this is the front screen, and as you see here, you got a few buttons here. So to start out, you're going to hit Get Started. Okay. We'll talk about these other buttons later on in the video. So click Get Started. It opens up this screen. Has a few basic things here. You got your name, who you are, what your location is, and what you do. Okay. I didn't know what really to name them, so that's why I call them that. So I'll put my name in here. There's my name. And then I'm going to say I am an entry level. I'm located in New York, and I'm in sales. Okay. Now that's the basic information that you put in, like, to identify yourself, right? Now, next thing you do is you're going to the file you want to get approved. You're going to submit it. So you're going to go in here, hit Add File, and then I'm going to attach a file. Now, typically the file it's going to get sent to you or whatever. So I think I remember where I put it. I think I put it in my PDFs. Yep, there it is. Alright, I made a PDF document that's just got like 4 signature blocks on it. So you're going to upload it here and then hit upload. It's going to upload to SharePoint and then bring you back here. Now, as far as your approval team goes, whoever the first one in the approval team is, they're going to go to this button right here. So go to the approval screen, and it's going to bring it up here. Now sometimes it doesn't load, that's why I put a refresh button here. Okay, so here's our item we just uploaded, and it shows all the information that we just put in, right? It says my name, my role level, and my physical location. Okay, now so this went to security. So what they're going to do is they're going to click on this little icon right here, and it's going to open up, say open up OneDrive. So what it does, what Open an App does, is it actually downloads the file from wherever you upload it to. In this case, it's SharePoint. It's going to download it and upload it to a temporary folder on your OneDrive. And then it's going to open your OneDrive file up from there. So it says, open this file. You hit open. So we're waiting for it to open up Adobe. And here it is. This is the, like I said, it's just a sample PDF. There's nothing special about it. It's just some data I downloaded off the internet, and then I added for these boxes here. So you're going to we'll click the first one. You select whichever certificate you want. You hit continue, then hit sign. It's going to want you to save it. Just don't change any of this stuff. This is where it's got to go in order for this process to work right. So you just hit save, then hit yes, and then it'll ask you for your PIN here in a second. I'll put my PIN in, and it will pop the digital signature in there. When you're done, just close Adobe. And then all that person does now is, now that that thing's signed, now there's no way for the application to know if you signed it or not. So I put this button in here called complete step, and depending on what this is, it'll move it to the next stage of the process. So you hit complete step, it'll save, and now it says security complete. which means it just moved on to the next step. So the next person is going to come in here, open up the button you did to get here. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to click on this button. They're going to click on this form here and hit open. It's going to come in here. It's going to open up that same file. You click here. We're going to sign it again. Sign. Save. Yes. Put our pin in for this. And it'll come up here like that. And then you can close it. And then since that's complete, we'll go here. Now, once it completes, it will disappear off this dashboard. And if you want to download your completed file, you're going to click here, and it'll show up here. Now, ID number 2 is the one we just did. Okay. Now, if someone wants to download it, all they have to do is click here, open it up, like you're going to sign it, but we're not going to, obviously. And then you come down to, where is it? That emails it, that creates a link. Menu. Okay, you're going to click on menu or file, whichever one's there. File wasn't here, that's what confused me. And you go save as. And then you go your computer. You can select, your folder, and then you just gotta hit OK. So we'll do downloads, and then you can navigate to where you want. And then once you're done, you just hit save, and that's how you download it. And then once you get it downloaded, you can just close it. Oh, let's go back to the first screen. Now we're going to talk about the other buttons here. Now, inside here, now only the approvers are going to see this button right here. Okay. If you come in as an ordinary person that doesn't do any approvals, you're only going to see these 3 buttons here and this one. This button will be invisible. Okay. So the only way you can get your form as a user is you come in here, and this shows you, this is basically the same screen we just saw, except it's only going to show yours in there, which since both are mine, that's why they're both there. Okay, but the process is the same. I probably should put a download button in here, that way you don't have to actually open up the file, you can just download the file directly. But now these 2 buttons down here, this is if you're going to have a standardized form, I put the download function on this. So if you click download template, what happens is it takes you straight to the downloads and it lets you download the file. Okay. Come on. Let me go back. There it goes. Alright, so there's that. And then I did a quick little pop-up here on frequently asked questions for this process. As you can see, so who needs the form? Everyone. I just cleared the form for another person. Do I need a new one? Da 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 da. It's just some BS questions I threw in, questions and answers I put in there. But you can put your own kind of thing in there. Your own frequently asked questions for your process. And that's pretty much the whole form. Okay. Now we're going to dig into it a little bit. Okay. So let's do the get started screen first. So you come in here. I'm going to actually open up the Power App in the studio so we can see the formulas or the expressions, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to apps. And then we're going to open up this one. I call it open an app, but you can call yours whatever you want to. It's only take a few minutes to load. Alright, so we're going to go in and hit get started. Now, in here, this is a basic people picker that I turn, well, it's a combo box that I turned into a people picker. As you can see, I put is blank, self-search.text, Office 365. So it uses the gal to bring up the names. Okay. Now, this form is not really used as an edit form. You could set it that way, and the way you would do that is on the default here, default selected items, you would put something in here. So I like using a variable that tells me what mode the form is in. Since this is a custom form, now if you use a form control, you don't need to do that because it has it built in. But I like custom form, so I put it in there. So I just say if GV form mode equals new, make it blank. Otherwise, populate it with the current records information. Okay, and these all work the same way, but I only use this form for new items, and that's it. So I didn't put that in there. Okay. Next thing is level of responsibility. I just hard coded some data points in here. You can, when you're on SharePoint, you can make a choice column and put those in there, and then you can use the choices command or function to pull those in. Okay. Branch location, same thing as the previous one. I hard coded some data in there. And then business process, same thing. So it's just a basic way of getting stuff in here. Okay. Now for the pop-up that comes up here, it's a container. Okay. And so let me fill this in so we can open up that container. So we'll go fill this back in again. Chicago leadership manager. Okay. So we're going to have file. Don't give this any mind. Matter of fact, I'm just going to. I did that so you can see your files you have uploaded, but I'm just going to hide it because it's not necessary. Oops, not that. I need both of these. I'll just set it to false. Alright. So you're going to hit add file now. And it's going to bring this pop-up in here. Okay. It's just a simple attachment box and a button. Okay. There's more in there that's hidden that helps with the process of uploading the files, but on here you go to, so the only thing I set up here, I left pretty much everything default, except I changed the max attachments to 1 because I only want one file being uploaded because I don't want them to be dumping all kinds of files in my library. And then I made the maximum attachment size 1 gig. And then pretty much everything else I left the same. Okay. Now, for the upload files button, this is where it kind of gets a little complicated, but it's not horrible. Okay. First thing it's doing, I'm creating a collection called cold files, and I'm basically grabbing the bits and bytes of the file and putting it into a property called base64, and it's basically like a variable. And then all this craziness right here, all that's doing is removing the double quotes around all the bits and bytes. Okay, because when we push it to Power Automate, you cannot have those in there. It will fail. And then the second field I put in here called title, we're using title1.text from the gallery that you can't see. It's this gallery right here, gallery 2, right? It's got 2 fields in it. It's got the name field and it's got the image field. The image field gets you your bits and bytes, and the first text field gives you your title. Now, you can customize it to what it says. So I do that a lot with a lot of my file upload apps. But this one here doesn't really matter. So I went and took care of it. But I did make a naming convention, but it's not here. And I'll show you where here in a second. And then it shows these two fields as the ones that are shown, because we did it add columns and show columns. Okay. So once you get this this collection created, now you're going to come down here and you're going to convert it to JSON. Basically, it converts the table into a string. So you got my variable of JSON data, and we're going to do JSON files, JSON format, indent 4. For some reason, that's the format it has to be in for Power Automate to deal with it. So there it is. Then we're passing that JSON data into a Power Automate flow. Since I'm pulling the whole record, I want to save it into a variable, so that way I can use it later. And this is the name of my flow, and then I'm running it. First thing I want to put in here is my JSON data, and then I put their email address, and then basically all those drop downs you've seen in the first screen, they're all right here. Okay. And then it runs that thing, and it comes back and saves the record. Since I'm pulling back a record value, it's going to put the whole record in here. Then you come down here, now it's going to run another flow called approval PDF. And so for everything in here, it's going to collect call library. Oh, the approval, the approval collection that's in here, or the approval screen where it puts all the what's waiting approval. It repulls it with this right here, okay, and then it resets all your fields, and then it goes back to the home screen. Okay, so that's your file upload. Now, originally, when you go straight to the approval screen, you'll see that collection, we use it a lot. Okay, there's like 4 or 5 different places. Anytime you use collections to show information, it has a tendency to if you don't keep it up to date, it'll be mismatched with your data source. So you got to keep it up to date. So every time something changes, you got to rerun the collection. Now you'll notice all of these fields here have this record next to it, except for one, and that's this. Where this record refers to everything in here that we're looping through, right? So I'm basically running get file ID dash open in app dot run this record ID file ID. So it's basically grab the file you just uploaded. It's after it uploads it, it looks at the file and gets the actual GUID from that file. Because the open in app feature with that button, it needs it, and I'll show you what gets involved in that. Okay, so it's grabbing that file ID for every file inside that listing, inside that gallery. Okay, and then it navigates to the screen where the approval screen is. Okay. Now, in order to make, let's go to the approval screen real quick. I guess I need to put something in here so I can show you this. Let's go ahead and run another form in here. So let's go my name. So here, I just put any old PDF in there, I don't care. Upload. guess it's still downloading it. Alright, we're going to let it go in there. Give it about 10 seconds, because sometimes the files don't save very fast. SharePoint's been going through some crap the last couple days, so it might not work very well. Last time I had to refresh it a few times before it actually show anything. There it is. Alright, so this button right here, it actually needs some things. Okay, so we're going to stop playing, and I'm going to show you the back end of that. So this button here on the on select, in order for it to work, this is the formula you got to use. Now, all these special formulas and stuff that I have in here, I'll put in the description so you don't have to write them down as we're going through the video. So you're going to do an OD open command, open file, file ID equals. Okay, each one of these lines right here is a property you got to put in there. Okay, and you put it in just like this. Okay, because what it's doing, it's creating a URL, and it's going to run that URL. So the file ID is that file ID that you saw earlier. Since we're inside of a gallery, everything's going to be this item. Now, some of these things won't be this item because they're variables that I use in other places of the app. Okay, the site ID, the list ID, the user email, user ID, and the web URL are all part of the app on start, which I'm going to show you that next. And then the only thing that's really on this screen is the file ID and the name. And like that file ID gets pulled from that thing and gets stored as separately. Okay, so let's go back to the app on start, and we'll show you that. Alright, the rest of this stuff, don't worry about it. It's just stuff I put in there. But what I want to bring focus to right here for right now is these 5 lines right here. Now, you need to get comfortable with Graph Explorer because that's where you're going to get some of this information. Okay, the site ID, the easiest way to get it is do your website up here, like do your site URL like it is, where after the site URL you're going to put underscore API / web. Yeah, web. And hit enter. And what it's going to do, it's going to bring up a file download. And then you're going to basically open up the file download and you're going to look for DID. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go into SharePoint. So I'm just basically going to go here and open up one of my SharePoint locations. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to remove everything except the site information. Okay. Then you're going to go underscore API / web. Hit enter. It's going to bring up a bunch of code. Okay, so you're going to go Control F, and then you're going to go D:ID. You should only get 2. Okay, and there's your opening tag, and there's your closing tag, and everything in between is your data that you're going to need. This is the site ID. Okay, so you're going to come in here, you're going to highlight that, and you're going to copy it. Okay, now when you go back into your app, oh, that's the reader. I need this one. And your site ID, you're going to put double quotes, curly brace, double quotes. Okay, and in between those curly braces, you're going to put that ID you just copied. Okay, so just to show you that this does work, as you look, the 2 numbers are the same, right? So that ID is correct. Now, as far as the rest of this goes, you don't have to do anything special to get it. You can do it right in SharePoint. So the site URL, that's easy. That's where we're just at, right? This is our site URL. Only do the site. Do not do anything after the name of the site. Okay. Then the next thing is your list ID. Now that sounds like it might be a little bit complicated, but it's not. Okay. So let's go back here. Let's go back to our library here. Now, all you have to do to get your list ID, which it doesn't matter if it's a library or list, it's still called a list ID. So you're going to go in here, you're going to go to your library settings. If you've got a library, if you're doing a list, you do a list settings. You come in here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go to advanced settings, and then we're not going to change anything, we're just going to hit OK. When it comes back, you'll see list right here in the URL. So everything in between the curly braces, you're going to copy. Okay, that's your list ID. So let's come back in here, and you'll notice it's the same as what I had on my list, or on my document library. Okay. Now the next two are easy because they're both being pulled through the user function. So you set a variable, so it's current user ID, and then what I did is it's looking for a GUID. So you're going to put user, open close, dot, enter object ID. You could put your email address in there if you want. It'll still work as an ID because your ID is your UPN. Okay, your unique principal name. And think about it for a second. And then you're going to need an email, so we use the user email function here. Okay. Now this right here is the same thing I showed you in two other places. And then this down here, I made a collection of sensitivity labels. Now, I work in an Army engagement, so they have sensitivity labels set up. My dev environment has none, so I can't really show you how this works. But that's how you do it. If you can get the IDs, as I got right here, see where it says GUID, 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 all the way down. If you can get those, you can use a drop down to tell Outlook what sensitivity label to use, but every tenant's different. So that's what that's for. And then down here, these are checking memberships of groups that I created. For each approval level, I made a 365 group, so that way they can only see what they're allowed to see and allowed to approve, so on and so forth, right? So let's close this up, and that's for this button right here. And if you notice, now just observe. You got GB site ID, GB site URL, GB list ID, current user email, right? So if I go here and we go back to this button again, and you look, GB site ID, GB list ID, current user email, current user ID, site URL, and then of course the file name is thisitem.name because that's what's there. And then the file ID is getting pulled from the list as well. And that completes your command. As you see, it works really well. Now, the next part of this is, now these are just labels, so you see them really simple. This you do not interface with. This is just something to let you know what the current status is. The status is controlled by the app, okay, depending on how you approach it. Which brings us to the complete step button. The complete step button is a dynamic button that is used to move the process along. So first thing it does is I'm using an if statement here, and I'm telling it to look for these. These are the three statuses that come up other than complete. Okay, but these are the active ones. Okay, so it basically says if it says var for the status, it's going to run this. And basically all it's doing is changing the status to this, okay, from var. And it says awaiting security, it's going to change it to security complete. If it says security complete, it's going to say completed, okay. And then it, of course, once it does this change, it has to repull the gallery because something changed, or repull the collection because something changed, okay. And that's all the mysticism behind complete step. Now I have a few other buttons on here, like go back to the home screen, and this refreshes the data source. So like that's what happened when I kept hitting this button right here. It was refreshing the data source so I could get that files to pull in. Now, completed archive is a pop-up container. So it reruns. Now it's filtering out everything but completed. Okay, and it basically just does a display, but it's a pop-up just like the rest of them are. And then if you want to go back to your approvals, you just got to click on this button right here. Now if you want to go back home, you click right here. And that's that part of the thing. My completed forms is basically the same as the approvals completed forms, except on the completed forms it shows everybody, where it says my completed forms, the person who's logged in, that's the only forms you're going to see, because we don't need everybody looking at everybody else's forms, right? So I put a filter on it. And the way you do that is inside your collection here, when you go to pull it, where is it? Nope, that's not what I'm trying to do. It's in the filtering's in the gallery. Alright, so it still pulls the same information as the approvals, but when you get to the gallery here, you'll notice I added a filter in here, right here, called the requester field needs to equal the user's email for them to see the files. If they don't equal it, it doesn't show it. Okay, so it literally, if the creator is you, well, if the requester field is you, which is the requester field is that name they put in the box in the beginning, if your name's not in there, you're not going to see that form. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this. Now the last thing I want to show you are these two buttons here. Okay, the download template button is just a launch command. Okay, if you want to download anything from SharePoint, like force it to download, it has to start like this. Okay, it's going to be your site URL, then underscore layouts / download.aspx. Okay, you're going to start it just like that, and then you're going to go question mark source URL equals, and then you're going to put the full URL of the file that you want to download. I put mine in site assets just to simplify it, and then this is the name of the file. So when you hit download, it's immediately going to download that file, or if you click the button. Now this frequently asked questions, it's just a container that I created as a pop-up. Okay, so you'll see it's just got a variable here that's true false, and then when this becomes true, it opens up the container, which is right here. So if you look at the container visibility, you'll see it's that same variable. Okay, and then when you want to close this box, just tells that variable to switch to false, which closes the frequently asked questions. Now if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below, and if you have any ideas where I can improve this thing even more, please let me know. And I hope you have a great day, and hope you enjoy the video.